Hey y'all, so this week we ended up finding out that my oldest has ADHD or and ODD. And for those who don't know, ODD is obstinate defiance disorder and ADHD is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And with ODD, because we knew that my oldest had ADHD, and we just didn't figure he had the ODD part because of the fact that my nephew has extreme ADHD and ODD. And so we kind of figured that it was just like, I don't know. I guess we kind of thought about the fact that it just had to be the ADHD, that it wasn't going to be the ODD. But come to find out, 40% of children who have ADHD also have ODD because of the impulse control. So ODD is very much where they are angry and defiant or vindictive. They easily lose their temper, are easily annoyed, get angry and resentful, show hostility toward authoritative figures, which my son does, refuses to comply with requests, purposely annoys others or upsets others, which he does, and I kind of thought was just their age because he's 7, almost 8. And I kind of figure at that age, they just think it's funny to be annoying, you know? And then he blames others for his mistakes. Like, they are really bad. See? They're really mad about blaming others, thinking that everyone else has the issue and not them. And then the ADHD, so it's all conduct related, okay? So everything that's related to the conduct is the ODD part. Whereas the ADHD, sorry, he's moving a chair. If you can't hear me, let me know. The ADHD, they get easily distracted, disorganized, and they may have difficulty sitting still. They also have difficulty focusing. They have trouble listening and following directions. They're unorganized. They frequently misplace items. He lost his shoes yesterday. Actually, he's lost his shoes for a while now. And he has yet to find them. And he almost had a complete breakdown because of it. And we'll get to why later. They're easily distracted, which I already said. Forgetting daily assignments and chores. He's had to make Slim for him and his brother and sisters. For about 2 years now, right?
No, long time.
About 3 years now. And he still has a hard time remembering that one. It's a daily thing he's had to do, and he still has a hard time with that one. And let's see, he forgets the fact that he has to take medication at night and medication in the morning now. For a long time, I tried a natural way instead of the medication because I really didn't want to have to put him on medication. I think that they're too young, really. But my husband really needed him to be on the medication. And when we got to looking at it, because of the fact that he couldn't remember to take the natural stuff, and I couldn't tell because the natural is a very slow acting, where they have to be consistently taking it for the full month for you to see whether or not they've been taking it or not. So I wasn't able to tell whether or not he could take it or he was taking it. And so we had to go ahead and just use the medication because I needed to be able to see if he was taking it. And maybe once he starts taking the medication consistently and is used to taking something in the morning and in the evening, then I'll switch him back over to the natural supplements. Because I feel like they work better and I feel like they're easier on his system. And I also feel that because of the fact that they're slower acting, they also last longer in his system instead of leaving his system as quickly as the medication. So like he took 5 milligrams this morning, or he took his meds this morning, and he'll have to take probably another set at lunchtime to help him get through the rest of the day. Because without his meds yesterday, he was an emotional wreck. It was pretty bad. But anyways, they have a hard time stopping fidgeting. That doesn't make sense. They can't stop fidgeting a lot of times. They talk too much. They blurt out answers in class, which, I mean, I homeschool, so it's not really that big of a deal for us. But I'm sure he did it in school, which is kind of sad.
I never did that.
It's true. Mm-hmm. He also interrupts conversations. Ta-da! ADHD. But I also think the interrupting conversations thing is just an age thing as well, because you have to teach a child to not interrupt conversations, let's be honest. Like, that's something that's learned. But they do have a hard time controlling that impulse, and so it's a neurodevelopmental thing. The ADHD is neuro. Yes, I'm saying that right. It's neuro, not just conduct. And so they end up, because of the ADHD and the ODD, a lot of times they lie, they steal, they destroy property, and have aggression towards people and animals, and serious violation of rules. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So he gets pretty aggressive whenever things don't go his way. In general, he gets pretty aggressive, and he just gets angry whenever things aren't going the way that he has planned. And that does cause some aggression, because in his mind, he's like, I had this all worked out. It's supposed to go like this. And when it doesn't go like that, he's like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And then he starts lashing out. And he doesn't think through the consequences of what's going to happen if he does just lash out, kind of thing.
Yeah, let me.
And one out of three children with ADHD also have anxiety and some depression, which is also what he has, in my opinion, because there are, it's okay, I'll share the screen with you. There are times where he's told me that he's dumb, that he feels like he's dumb, he can't do anything right, he feels like that he's useless. He's told me that he feels that no one likes him. I mean, it's really bad. And so because of that, I've had to work really hard to remember to give positive reinforcement. And we'll get to that in just a minute, because that's all the things. So a lot of the things that I found to help are mostly discipline, but I kind of feel like they help with just everyday life in general, because there are some things that are disciplinary, I guess is the right word, that can also end up being something that can just help him in general. And so, this is Austin, by the way, just in case I haven't introduced him. So these are the things that I found to help. And a lot of them kind of work together. So I might just say a few of them together, and then kind of expound on it. So you want to connect with them on a one-on-one level. So because of the fact that they have such an issue with anxiety and depression, you want to make sure that you're connecting with them one-on-one and in a non-judgmental area. You want them to know that you love them and support them, and that you are, that they are loved, supported, and that they or that they're worthwhile. Sorry, I couldn't read my handwriting there for a second. So you want them to feel loved, supported, and worthwhile. And the only way you can really do that is to connect with them. And so the best way that I connect with him is we have a stay-up night, and now his sister sits in on that sometimes. But also the best way that I found is that when the other ones are outside playing, because a lot of times he doesn't like going outside to play, he likes playing inside on the electronics. And so I've also had to limit that. That's another thing that's coming up. That I have found that time with him, talking to him and connecting with him on a different level and making him feel important and worthwhile is more important than pretty much almost anything else that we do, because he craves that. They crave that that positive reinforcement, which leads into the next one, which is praising their efforts. You want to recognize the good that they do and try to ignore the bad. As much of the bad as you can, you need to ignore it. It goes along with one of the other ones that you have, which is to choose your battles. You have to choose your battles. You need to praise their efforts and help them know that they are doing the right thing, which means that you can't always just be like, stop doing that, don't do that, stop doing that, stop touching that, don't go there, you know. You have to help them feel like they are doing something correct. Because of the fact that there is so much more connected to it, you have to do more, if that makes sense, which makes it a little more difficult a lot of times. Bless you. Praise them and make them feel good about themselves. That's an obvious, really. Positive attention and reinforcement. They are eager to please us. They want to please us. They want to do the right thing. Their problem is that their brains can't connect that what they're doing is wrong. Like, you may not want them to pick up the baby, but they're like, that baby needs help. Let me pick up the baby, kind of thing. Does that make sense? Don't know if everyone can connect with that one, but you get what I'm saying, really. Where it's very much something where They just know something needs to be done a lot of times, or they want something to be done. I want that baby to stop crying. I'm going to pick up the baby. I'm going to give the baby the bink. Whatever. Whatever you may not want at the time, a lot of times they end up thinking that it's something that needs to happen right now.
I'm 6.
And so make sure to praise them and give them positive reinforcement. Be like, thank you so much for picking up the baby. I didn't really need her right now, but I really appreciate the fact that you thought about helping me. That is so good. Thank you so much. So you're still telling them that they did something wrong, but you're doing it in a way that's making them feel like they did something right too. Because they did do something right. They did help, but they didn't help the way you needed at that time.
Okay.
And then be aware that they're extremely sensitive to criticism and will shut down whenever you criticize them or whenever you are super angry with them, which means you also have to leave your emotions out of it. You have to model self-control because they don't know how to not buffer that, but they don't know how to control that as it is. And so when you show self-control, they'll be more likely to show self-control over time, not immediately, because they see it more and more like they're not yelling at me. I don't have to react because they're yelling. You know what I'm saying? Their natural reactions aren't gonna just pop up, which kind of goes along with another one. You want to use natural and logical consequences because I call it karma, but sometimes karma doesn't always kick in right away, right? So I'm going to use the example of eating food. If they choose not to eat dinner, they're going to be hungry. That's the natural consequence. But it's not always immediately because they may have just had a snack, right? Or they may have had a snack shortly before dinner. So if they decide not to eat dinner, they may not be hungry immediately, but they will be hungry. Now, the logical consequence is because they didn't eat dinner, they don't get to have dessert. Dessert is a reward that they get for eating dinner. And so if...
last night I asked you to have a
Okay, yeah, see, there we go. See what I'm saying?
I should have a yogurt.
That's the ADHD right there.
Even me.
Focused
I
on
also
something.
finished dinner.
He's focused on something. That has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. But that's okay. No, it does not. Just
have a
because
yogurt.
I'm talking about it doesn't mean that it has something to do with it, okay? Anyways. Sorry, I had to write notes because there was a lot of really good information on this stuff. So kids do the best they can with the skills they have. That's something we have to remember as well because they aren't going to automatically know what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing to do, right? We have to teach them right and wrong as they grow. Just like we have to teach them to walk, we have to teach them to crawl, we have to teach them to talk. And so it's really important for us to remember that they are growing these skills and these abilities as we go. They're learning right along with us a lot of times. And so another thing to remember is that discipline, the root word of discipline is disciple, which means to teach, not punish. Our job is to not punish them, but it's to teach them. So if we're doing it out of a teaching perspective instead of out of a, I need to discipline them, I need to punish them, they need to have consequences for this choice. Yes, they need to have consequences. Not all of those consequences are punishments, though. A lot of them are teaching moments. Most of them are teaching moments. And so that's something really important for us to remember. Be consistent. So with him, because of the ODD, you have to be consistent with the consequences. Keep things simple. They are not going to remember if you go into this long lecture and they are going to shut you off. They're just going to stop. So keep it simple. What they need to do, how to keep them occupied, whatever. Keep it simple. They are not going to do the right thing just because you want them to do the right thing. Remain calm. Once again, be in control of your reactions, of your emotions, because you want to make sure that you're calm while you're helping them, because they're already going to be out of control. Perfect example. Last night, Austin was having a hard time because his meds had worn off, and he wasn't able to control himself like he wanted to. And so he kept having these moments where he kept crying. He would just break down and cry because one thing or another wasn't going the way he wanted. His sister had a friend over, and he wanted to go outside and play, but he couldn't go outside and play because he didn't have his boots. And he couldn't find his boots. Remember we talked about the fact that he hasn't been able to find his boots for a while?
That was the forging part. That was the...
Oh, I'm sorry. He wanted to go out and forge with his dad. His dad has a forge in our backyard, and they make knives out there. And he had to put his boots on to go out there and forge with Dad. But because of the fact that he couldn't find his boot, he couldn't go out there. So he sat down, he grabbed his blanket from upstairs, sat down on the chair in front of me while I was making dinner, and cried inside his blanket because he just couldn't find his boots. And for him right then, I could have gotten angry. I'm like, why are you crying again? This was about the third time where he had just sat down and cried because something wasn't going the way he wanted. He had to do dishes earlier, and so he cried about that. And then he had to, yes, he cried about unloading and reloading the dishwasher. And then he also had to do something else, and he was upset that he had to do that, and so he cried about that. And so I could have just been like, oh, why are you crying again? You know, like I could have been like that. I could have been exasperated and angry and been upset with him for not being able to control himself. But in all reality, it's not fair. He's 7. I'm 30. There's a big difference in age. There's a big difference in age, and there's a big difference in...
I have 23 more years until I'm 30.
Yes. There's a big difference in all of that, where he hasn't learned all that I've learned in life. And so I need to be the one to show him how to react in these situations. So instead of reacting like exasperated or angry, I just calmly asked him what was going on and if I could help. Now, because I was making dinner, I wasn't able to help as much as I wanted to, but I was able to help him a little bit. And his dad came in as well, and he talked to him about the fact that just because he was having a bad day, that his dad wouldn't make it so that he had to wear his boots. He could wear any shoes, but if he got something hot on it, that it would burn through his shoe, and just to be aware of that. And so that's a natural consequence. That's a choice that he made. He chose to put regular tennis shoes on and go outside and forge with his dad. And the natural consequence is that if he got something like hot on his shoe, he would have to deal with the fact that he'd have a hole in his shoe. And so, but we tried really hard to celebrate his successes because he does do a lot of things right. And he does do a lot of help. He does give a lot of help, and he is really good about making sure that, sorry, they stole my shoe. He's really good about helping with my other kids and helping with their school stuff if I need, and he does a lot of good with the baby. Like, the baby loves him. Laurel is obsessed with him and loves being able to be held by him and stuff like that. And so I always try to celebrate that with him, especially whenever he's done something super, super right, like controlling himself when it's hard, like without the medication especially. I also try to give choices. I haven't been really good about this lately just because there's been so much going on. But I always try to give choices to my kids just because I feel like saying you can eat dinner or go to bed really isn't the best option. But if I say, how about hot dogs for dinner or chicken, and they get to choose between the two of them, I feel like that's something more sensible. Or, you know, do you want to go to the park or the splash pad? Or do you want to go to, well, that's not a good one. Well, that's okay. But you get what I'm saying. So I like to give them choices to help them to kind of work through what they need. And especially with him, it's easiest to give him choices instead of just being like, you have to do this. Be like, you can do the dishes now, or you can wait until right before bed and you can stay up late and do the dishes because this is your choice. This is a consequence of your actions. And because of it, I try to give him choices, and I want the natural consequences to play out as well. So consequences and rewards. I try to opt for the positive over the negative reinforcement. So I try to opt for the rewards. I would much rather give a reward for doing something right than a consequence for doing something wrong. I like for the natural consequences to play out. For example, if you're going to fight with your brother, or if you're going to hit your brother's going to hit you back kind of thing. I fully believe they need to work through their issues and learn to work through it in a healthy manner or in a healthy way, instead of getting out into the real world and being like, what am I supposed to do now? This person doesn't agree with me. Should I just punch them? You know, stuff like that. And so I try to let them have natural consequences so they learn through their mistakes. And I try to just reward as much as possible. Because of the ODD also, I have to make sure I have a clear set of rules. Because if I don't have a clear set of rules, he's more likely to do the wrong thing because I've set him up for failure, essentially. So I have to make sure that he knows the rules before we go into any situation. Before we go anywhere, I always tell him what I expect of him so that he knows what is the right thing to do. Avoid power struggles, especially with someone who's obstinate. You want to make sure that you are avoiding any situation where they feel like they have to be in control. And so you want to make sure that you avoid those power struggles. The whole purpose of this is to help them to succeed, not to try to figure out who's better or worse, which is a huge reason why he and my husband don't get along very often, because my husband has to be in control, and he has to be in control sometimes. He feels like he has to be in control, is what I should say. Because for him, that control means stability. And for my husband, that control means stability. So for both of them, they have to feel that control, and they have to feel like it's better than anything else, which is fine. But at the same time, it's important to realize that, hey, no ma'am, that you don't need to have that power struggle. You don't need to sit there and argue with him about who's in control or them, about who's in control, who's right, who's wrong. You just set the clear rules and avoid any situation that you can where there's going to be a power struggle. Now, don't get me wrong. There are going to be power struggles just because it is a learning curve, and you have to help them realize that they're not in control right now, but they can be in control later if they do the right thing. So also reward, because they want that power. That's a reward. So engage in positive interactions goes back to the other stuff, because of the fact that they do have that anxiety and depression. You want to engage in as many positive moments as you can. Give warnings before you do something else. So warnings before transition. You want to let them know anytime something is going to change. I give a 5-minute warning before we leave the house. Usually I actually give a 30-minute warning because I tell them to get their shoes on 30 minutes before we leave. And then I give them a 10-minute warning, and I give them a 5-minute warning. At the 5-minute warning, we usually start loading up because it takes us about 5 minutes to load up, and my kids take forever. So yeah, I have 5 of them, so I kind of struggle with that one. But you always want to give mornings before transition. I think that's just a parenting thing, though, in general, because just like whenever you're about to leave the park, you want to give a 5-minute warning, right? Or a 10-minute warning. You want them to know they have 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left. And so you want to make sure that you really do that with an ODD or ADHD child. And with ODD, sleep is a priority. They have to have sleep, which is really hard because of the fact that their ADHD gives them anxiety. Yay! So sleeping is hard for them, but you have to make sure that they get the sleep they need, because without that sleep, they're going to become even more obstinate. Think about yourself when you're tired. You get angry, you get defensive, you get stubborn, you fight against everyone who tries to tell you what to do, right? It's the same thing with them. Their little bodies cannot handle all the emotion that comes when they're super tired. And so when they're tired, everything is worsened. Their ADHD, their ODD, anything that's going on with them, even my other children who are not diagnosed with anything right now. When they're tired, I have an angry little girl who ends up kicking and hitting and just being mean just because she can, because she's tired. She's tired. She's overly tired. And then I have another one who just cries because she's a baby, so I'll give that one to you. And then I have another one who, thankfully, she's not bad, but when she gets super, super tired, she just whines a lot. I can't do that. I'm so sleepy.
When she does dishes at night, I don't want to do this.
I'm so tired. And then my other one just whines a lot too. Well, that's not true. He gets kind of mean whenever he's tired. Talon.
Oh, Tom, I thought you were talking.
He gets mean whenever he's tired because he just doesn't handle being tired, let's be honest. So my point is that sleep is a priority for any child, whether or not they have anything extra going on or not. You want to make sure that they get sleep because that is one of the most important things that you can do for a child, really, is help them developmentally. One, they need to grow physically and mentally. Two, they need that break just as much as you do, to be completely honest. They need that time to kind of unwind and slow down and to just relax and let their body just come back down after the day they've had, no matter if you've done a whole lot or not, to be honest. And then three, honestly, the children, or any child, especially younger children, need that sleep because they need to be able to have that alone time. They need to learn to be by themselves and quiet. And that's something that's super, super, super important as well. So if you know of anything that helps with ADHD and ODD or both or one or the other, please feel free to leave something in the comments. I love, love, love to hear all of your suggestions and all of your tips and tricks and stuff. And so please, please, please feel free to drop any suggestions in. This is all new to me, and I'm just researching as I go, and I'm trying to help him out as best as possible. So if you learn something, like I have a friend who knows that the ADHD can sometimes be sensory. There's a sensory ADHD. I did not know that. Did you know that? And so sometimes whenever it's a sensory ADHD, you have to do things a little differently. So you have to give them things to actually like fidget spinners and stuff like that. Those are a lot of those kids who end up enjoying those is because of the fact that they have a sensory issue as well. I did not know that. I have a child who likes to chew on things. If you have any suggestions or ideas to help get him to stop chewing on things, I would be greatly appreciated. Because seriously, it is annoying. He's 4 years old. He chews on chalk. He chews on lead. He'll chew on his pencils. He chews on the erasers. He eats the erasers, people. Eats the erasers. I don't understand it.
He eats on the lead, too.
He does chew on the lead.
He will die or something.
He will not die.
He will get sick.
Okay, thank you. Anyways, he eats dirt. He'll chew on rocks. He'll chew on lamination. So we have the plastic from the lamination because we've had to laminate these leaves and stuff so we could dry erase marker on them.
I don't chew
for the year. He chews on that. He eats paper. He eats anything you can think of. So if you know something to help with this, please, I'm begging you people, please help me out.
When someone does something weird to him, he does something with that.
But I think that's a learned thing.
When Curly hit him, he cut some of her hair off.
He did. He got angry and he cut some of her hair off. I have a feeling we're going to have someone else that has similar issues as their older brother here soon. I'm just saying. But anyways, so if you have any ideas, please send them my way because, yeah, I am running out of options. I just don't know anymore. I am all up for that. So thank you so much for listening. And if you have any suggestions or any questions or if you want to hear about anything in particular, please, please, please drop it in the comments below. Click like, subscribe, share. And also feel free to come watch my Instagram. I post a lot of things about parenting and about my gut health and about my how I de-stress from homeschooling and everything like that. I post basically the same things that I do here. I just do more and little bits of it. On my Instagram, and I will see about leaving that in the comments. So feel free to check it out, and yeah. Well, I guess I could just tell you what it is too. It's just Katie K. Is my Instagram. So feel free to just check us out, check me out, and subscribe. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a good week.